Well, hello, everybody. Today is Wednesday, and the dynamic of me recording is a little bit different. It is nighttime, and I almost always record in the morning, and I am just in the nursery, almost as always, rocking Everest to sleep. And I figured I would record this podcast for today right now. So, I wanted to talk about how your marriage changes and how having kids affects your marriage, at least ours, and how it might affect a marriage. Um, I also wanted to add a little something like a pros and cons list having kids. I think this is more like along if you're single, or I mean, not single, but if you're married and you're wanting to have kids, just a pros and cons list. And some of these mindsets I'm going to preface are kind of like a mindset of like a single person might have. But even if you're married and you want to have kids, this is kind of something to consider when wanting kids, and it's something to consider as a single person before you're even married, and you're thinking about having kids, or even if you haven't had kids and you're not married yet and you're still single, just considering like before you have kids and before you're married, like all the cons to having kids are like your ally in this single season, you know, and the things that make having kids hard are just something to be positive and to be excited about as a single person, because you have, a different oyster. Like the world is your oyster as a single person, you know. Um, the world is your oyster at any moment, and you can make anything, anything is possible at any time, no matter, single, married, kids. But the dynamic to your life definitely changes. And I knew this when I was single, but it's just a different revelation of knowing when you're married and have kids. So I'm gonna do a pros and cons list really quick, like run through that. That's not what this podcast is about. It's mostly about how it affects your marriage once you're married, and maybe what your marriage looks like before and then after having kids. I just wanted to talk about that. So I'll just jump right into it, and I might go quickly over the pros and cons. Um, and yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with the cons, so you're left with the pros. So, fear of what the world might be like in the future. Like, that was something I was super, like, worried about in my first year of marriage with my husband. I did not want to have kids. Well, I wanted to eventually, but I was like, there was, you know, Biden had gotten elected, and I was just like, not wanting anything, I was like, what if our world goes to garbage and like all this stuff? And I was just like, man, I am scared of what our world is going to look like, and who knows what it could look like. Um, I was scared of what could happen, and I was like, I don't want to bring any person into this world at any, in any way, shape, or form. I want to keep just, why would I want to bring someone into all this fear and worry and hatred and division? And I just want unity and people to come together, and that's not happening. So why would I want to bring another person into this hard world? And so, um, that was just a fear of mine. But the truth is, we're called to bring people. That was just a fear. And so that was a lie. But the truth is, we're called to be light in this world and to multiply more good. Because if we don't, then the evil will continue to multiply. But where evil multiplies, good abounds. Where evil abounds, good abounds even more. So, um, finances, like if you don't have the amount of finances, like finances, you have to, you know, I've heard people say like you have to be in a financially stable situation, and to a degree you do, but it's like some people go to the extent of like I need to be completely debt free, which is where my mindset was, and like you need to have all your ducks in a row forever, and like you need to be in the perfect house and the perfect completely debt free and have millions in the bank, and like, you know, all this like so many things. You need to have a 401k set out, you need to have this and this, but it's like that's not realistic, and then nobody would have kids for one. But the second is you have to remember like your finances, like you are now not investing in yourself. Like you want to take sailing lessons, or you want to, you know, take horseback riding lessons, whatever it is, you have to put those things on hold because you're now investing in a person rather than, I mean, another person rather than in yourself as a person. So that priority needs to shift, and um your finances aren't going to be perfect when you have a kid, but you have to remember that now your finances will shift, and maybe you're not getting that extra latte. Maybe now you're putting that towards diapers rather than a latte, you know, or maybe not. Maybe you're fine, and but still a portion of your finances will now go towards all these things for the baby, you know, and that definitely changes. Rather than when you're single, you can choose and put your money towards whatever you want. Do you have the capacity to take care of a child that is, you know, potentially could have an ailment of some sort? That's definitely something that you need to consider, and that could be a hard thing, um, you know, and that would be definitely something you might not have planned for, but it's something that you need to be aware of, and um, able to know that that could happen. And now, obviously, we plead the blood of Jesus that that would never happen, you know, because it's not God's plan for anybody. So, you know, there's that aspect of it. Um, Anxiety about his or her well being. Now, again, this isn't the truth about what God says about anxiety, you know, but I think if you had any level of fear or worry, you know, that changes when you have a person that you're now like responsible for. Like you are responsible for their, you know, them not falling off a cliff. We live on the side of a mountain. Like that's my responsibility that he doesn't jump off a cliff, you know, like or fall off a cliff, you know. So it's like you have to be in a place with the Lord that you completely trust him, and you know, like, Lord, yes, he is my baby, but he's your baby first. And I pray over him, and I bless him, and I plead the blood over him, and I'll teach him everything I know that you taught me. But I have to trust you in that. But it can be definitely a con of worrying about him, you know, worrying about them. There is a level of a loss of freedom. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more when it comes to marriage because that definitely affects it. You do lose a level of freedom because now you can't just go to a concert whenever you want. You have this person that the decibels are way too high. If the decibels are in the 90s for a repeated amount of time, that's way too loud for a baby, and you can't necessarily do that. You can't just even make a YouTube video. Like I make YouTube videos. I can't just make a YouTube video whenever I want because I have to be tending to his issues and his feeding to him, changing his diaper every 2 to 3 hours. You know, you have to be aware of that. Parenting with another person, you know, it's a con, but it's also, I think this one is also a positive, a pro, because you get to do life with someone and learn with another person. I'm going to talk about that later, but it can be a con if you view different ways of child rearing or um, different ways of doing things. But I think it's more a pro than a con, but I wanted to add it to a con because it could be difficult. It is difficult at times. Um, it increases there's an opportunity for irritability and disagreement, more than you would if you didn't have a kid. Um, like, I'm going to talk about this more, but I'm going to talk about it later within marriage. Um, Now, pros to having kids. Um, I think if you don't have kids, you might not have, like, once your siblings pass away or your parents, if you have siblings, then you'll have, family. But if you don't, some people, you might not have family with you anymore. Maybe you have a spouse, but if you don't have kids, around Christmas, you might have just you and another person, or you and a few other people, one or two other people, when you're 80 or 90. But if you have kids, you'll always have at least one, two, three people with you at around the holidays, or with you when you're 80, 90 years old. Whereas if you don't have kids, you might not have anyone around you at that age. So, um, I think that's definitely a pro to having people in a family with you, when you're in your older ages of life. Um, Having kids makes you extremely selfless. I'm going to talk about this more in marriage. Um, you have to care for somebody else once you have a kid, and completely, like you already do in marriage, but it goes to another level when you have kids. Um, you have to completely put everything you want to do aside. Um, it completely humbles you because you absolutely do not know what you're doing, and things change and you're figuring it all out. Even if somebody comes and tells you what to do, you're still figuring it all out because your kid is different than any other kid that ever lived. So it's not a cut and paste situation, you know? It gives you purpose beyond yourself. I feel like I want to talk about this more in marriage, but it's a much larger purpose than anything I feel like I've ever done. And when you have a kid, it it gives you, like just like I said, purpose beyond yourself, purpose beyond anything, ambitions or goals that you have. It's somebody else that you get to help guide them in the Lord, and guide them to that, so that they can have their own relationship with the Lord, and that you can get to learn who they are through the Lord's eyes and who the Lord created them to be. So I think it's such an exciting thing to get to know a person that God created, that He gave to you to be with in life and to share life with. And that's something extremely special. Um, I mean, there could be people that don't have kids, there's could be um an opportunity. Well, actually, I'm not gonna even go in that. um I guess the last thing about the pros is that you get family forever. Once you have a kid, you literally are responsible for this person for the rest of your life. Like, yeah, at 18 they leave the house, but at the same time, they might not be ready to leave the house at 18. Hopefully, they are, but if they're not, then you're still responsible for them, even like when they get married, and like you're still helping guide them in life after 18. Like I still call my parents and ask for advice and different things too, and you share life with them forever. And I think you get the opportunity to have life, to share life with them forever. So, um, I think another pro is you have created somebody, well, the Lord and you and your spouse created somebody that didn't ever exist before on earth. They existed. God created everything before the foundation of the earth. So this person was already created forever. But before the foundation of the earth, of the world, but um you get to partake in them on earth. And um yeah. So, okay, that's a pros and cons list. I think um, I definitely wanted to share that because it's so important to consider all these things when wanting a child. And it's such a huge commitment. Like, it's so crazy how flippantly people like have sex and then have kids, but it like we have figured out like found out like it is such a huge commitment, and I totally still want 4 kids, like even at this point. But or at least if not the Lord want if unless the Lord wants more for us, like 4 is still my go-to number. And I hope for 2 boys and 2 girls, if I'm being honest. And if the Lord has more for us, amen, like I'm totally down for that. But even just learning one is such a huge thing, and it's such a life-changing thing. And anyways, it's so huge. Okay, so when you have a kid, it completely changes the dynamic of being married. Okay, so married life, let me just, for all you singles, married life before kids, we would get up and we would spend time in the Word, or like you're pretty free as a married person still. I feel like you can get up, be with the Lord, you can go work out, you can go to work right away after all that, and then uh, you don't have to hold on to somebody. You can just do whatever you need to do in that moment. You just have to communicate with your spouse. You talk things through with your spouse. You can go on your own, or we did almost everything together. Caleb and I, we did a lot of things together, and we would just go and we'd go out to eat without even thinking about it. We're like, let's just go out to eat. Financially, we would plan it out each week, but we would be like, okay, we're just gonna go, and you just get yourself ready and you just go. It's so quick. Things are just fast, like how I like them fast, like you're just able to do what you need to do when you want to do it, and you can just go down to the hot tub, which we did often, and have a pizza and hang out and have a bubbly and just chill. And you're just taking care of yourself. You're just about each other, and about the Lord. And you can go just do evangelism. Like, anyways, I don't need to elaborate. You're very free. um I feel like even in marriage, prior to kids, you can sit there and just do whatever it is that entertains you and not have to worry about it. You really don't have to worry about how your life affects another person, only your spouse. And your life does affect the other person in a big way, but the other person can handle themselves, and talk to you about it. Whereas when you have kids, they don't really, you're not able to talk to them, especially in the beginning, about it, and they can't communicate to you. So it's so easy to communicate with your spouse. You just have to do it. And I just think that's such a wonderful thing. Anyways, um, yeah, so I'm just going to start going into this list and talking about it a little bit more, and probably say like what is before marriage and then after. I mean, before kids and then after kids, once you have kids. Um, so now um, uh, you have now created a human being, and this person has become um, like a disciple, like your most important disciple. And so I think that is such a huge, amazing thing that you get to partake in once you have kids. And so you and your spouse get to now disciple this person, and you get to do it together. So you get to learn how to disciple a person from the very scratch. Like they believe what you tell them. They have wonder and awe in their eyes. And now you get to teach them the word of the Lord. You get to teach them relationship and presence um and how to bring heaven down and how to pray for people and how to see people get healed and see God work his incredible kingdom on this earth. And you get to teach this person from scratch, and they just believe, and they believe completely wholeheartedly. um yeah, I think that that is something, such a joy filled thing that affects your marriage. And just this kind of leads into the next thing, but you just grow closer. Like when you have a kid together, like that person is a fruit, like is the fruit of your love, like is literally the fruit bearing wine. I don't know, I just see like wine, like this person is oil of your love. Like your love is a person manifest. It's crazy to think about it. Like, you guys are now closer, and he is the fruit of it. Like, you were closer, once when you had sex, right? And so the fruit of that love together is that person. Like, that is crazy to me. And then you continually are growing closer through like the hard conversations and the stressful times, because yes, it is stressful in the beginning, because this fragile person is now like tiny, tiny fragile person, where you think it's like it's so like scary to like hold them for the first time. And like, are they gonna break or are they gonna get sick? Like, you want to protect them from everything. And like, you like want to protect them from everything. Like, even from yourself, you want to protect him, and each other you want to protect him from. So it's like just that level of closeness that you grow through the stressful times is so key in having a kid. And yes, it's stressful, and it puts, like, you have a higher chance of having irritability, like when you have a kid, because you don't even know what you're doing. The learning curve is so high. It's like such a huge learning curve having a baby. You have no idea what you're doing. Like, you literally have no idea, no matter how many books, and we read the books and we had the talks from the grandparents and blah blah blah, and have the friends that have had babies before you and the siblings that have had babies before you. But like, it's it's just completely different, every person, every baby, every couple. And yeah, you're going to get irritable, but that's just an opportunity for the presence of God to come down and melt that irritability away. And to be have you just have the opportunity to have a higher level of patience than you ever did before. And yeah, the first year of marriage will develop that level of patience like no other. Like, seriously. But then when you have a kid, it's like your level of patience ability like grows through the roof. Because yes, I said roof because I'm from Minnesota, whatever. And like, you have the opportunity to put everything, like Caleb says, now it's no more fun. Like, no, yes, it is more fun. You like all the things that you wanted, that you loved to do when you were single and when it was just us, are now put aside. Yes, it's not, it's an exaggeration of the truth. Like, now no more fun. Of course, we have so much fun being with him. Of course, now everything we do incorporates him. So now your fun just looks different, and you have to be creative. It's not just sitting on your phone or playing a game, or going for a walk, just us. Like, those things are possible with a babysitter, but we haven't gone down that venture yet. We haven't had a babysitter yet. We haven't left him alone away from us yet. He's only a few months old, so yeah. anyways, like everything is just incorporates him. Like your life is completely all encompassing of him. And yes, like it feels like there's no more fun because it's not about you anymore, and it's not about just plainly you as a person and what you want to do. It's like you get a little bit of what you want, and mostly it's about what he wants and needs because he needs you all the time. And I have heard from other people that have had kids that he is completely dependent on you right now, but in the next few years, he's not completely dependent on you, and he might just want to go play and be on his own, and then you can be on your own, or that he can sit on your lap and you can do what you want. He can do what he wants. Excuse me. I'm yawning whether it's morning or night. I just need to record this at noon, and then I won't be yawning, alright? I'm getting the hint, alright? So, um, yeah. So it's not that it's no more fun, it's just your fun needs to shift because I have so much fun when I wake up in the morning and he is just laughing and giggling and talking and cooing and smiling. I am having a lot of fun, and it's a different fun that is has been invented in my life that I've never had before and never would have had the opportunity to have. Because when you have your own kid, yes, it's so amazing to see your nieces and nephews, and I love them like my own kids. Like like I love all my nieces and nephews as if they're my own. Like I love them so crazy much. And it's funny because I never felt that way before. Like I babysat a lot of kids, but like I never felt that way until I had nieces and nephews. But then when you have your own kid, it like skyrockets. Like I'm telling you, I love my nieces and nephews so much. It's wild. Like I feel like they are my kids, even though I don't see them very often. I just see them through social media, or I mean, not really social media, but like through the phone, like through pictures and texts and stuff. But like when you have your own kid, it's like wildly exponentially more. And my love for them is so high already. Anyways, I'm going off on this love rant, but like it's crazy. And I totally lost my train of thought. I am through the fourth trimester, people. He is no longer 3 months. He is, but he's going on 4 months. So I'm through the newborn stage, but I am obviously not because I can't get my brain straight. Um, I totally lost. Oh, the no more fun. It is fun. It just looks different, and you have to be very intentional about when you're having your fun, and it might just look different. So, yeah. Um, I'm gonna be real and real straight here. Like, this might not be for everybody, but once you have a kid, you have to wait 6 weeks to have sex again. And so that definitely affects your marriage. And I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I feel like everybody is super different, and I feel like I don't need to discuss this so much just because I do believe it's something private between you and your person, but on some type of level, like the doctor wanted us to wait 6 weeks after we had Everest, just so like because I tore, and so you have to let your stitches heal for one. And then the second one is they wanted me to have birth control. Obviously, I did not because I am not going to let that affect me and the hormones and how much it messes with you. And I do not suggest having being on birth control, even if you're single or married or whatever you're at, because it's very dangerous and your chances of cancer increase like crazy. Now, this is a personal conviction, so I'm not telling you or like shaming you if you do, and I don't judge you if you do at all. I'm just suggesting that it is better for you if you don't do it. And just because it's more healthy, it's healthier for you and your future. Like, like if why would you do something that increases your level of cancer by like huge amounts of percentages, and like it affects you and it changes who you are, it changes your hormone levels, and it affects you in a very negative way that you don't necessarily need to go through. And if the Lord wants to give you kids, let him give you kids in the time frame, especially if you're married and you are inside wedlock. Like, let the Lord do what he wants to do in your life and give you kids. You know, that's his plan. The first thing he said, commandment, was that he ever gave Adam and Eve was be fruitful and multiply. So let him sow that fruit in your life in whatever way and whatever timing he has for you in your marriage, and don't try to control these things. Let the Lord move in your life. And if you have fear about having kids or you want to control it, take that to the Lord. Like, I don't mean to step on toes, but like really truly take that fear, because I had it. Take it to the Lord and talk to him about it. Like, why do you have fear about having kids? Why do you have a fear of not being able to control the situation? Why do you have anxiety about it? What is holding you back? You know, maybe you're feeling like it's not the right time. Well, why do you feel like it's not the right time? If you're married, then why is it not the right time for you to have kids? You know, if you are married and you're having sex, then then is it not the right time if the Lord gives you and says it's time, you're pregnant now? Is it not the right time? I think just trusting the Lord in his timing is the biggest thing we can do. And if he gives you a baby, then he will provide all that you need at any time. And so I think just trusting in that is so crucial and critical. Um, and if this offends you, take it to the Lord, because there's a reason that, and he wants to talk to you about it. Um, Everything is about the baby. I kind of touched on it. So it's not about, it feels like it's not about you anymore, and it's not about your spouse anymore. It's about the baby. And so it feels that way because everything you're doing revolves around the baby now, and the way that you do things revolves around the baby. So you have to be intentional about your marriage, because your marriage is the lifeline to the baby. The baby feels secure. We read a book about helping to create a confident, secure baby, and one of the things that they said was the baby, um, you build security in your baby when you are showing signs of love and when you actually love your spouse. So the confidence of your baby is a lot rides on, like, the baby feels secure. They're not living from a place of trying to get to a place of security. They're living from security. They're living in a place of confidence from the the confidence in you and your spouse's love for each other. And it builds confidence and security in your baby to know that you love each other and that you love him or her. And it takes away from any insecurity or fear or worry or anxiety from a kid when you don't when those things are eliminated, and the fact of the matter is you are showing signs of love, and that you love each other, and that you're genuine in that love. And um yeah. So let's see. um I think a level of what is being built. Well, okay, so there's more, I think there's more opportunity to multiply God's love in the world um when you have this baby, but also in your marriage. Like, you have multiplied this baby, but now, like, you get to duplicate who who you are. Essentially, that's what you're doing when you are you're duplicating yourself in this baby. So it's so important to duplicate light, to duplicate good, to duplicate God in this baby, and duplicate Christ. And in this baby, and in everything that this person becomes. And so you get to duplicate life, and I mean light. And so you and your spouse, I kind of touched on this, I guess, already, but I really feel like it's so exciting, and it's an opportunity for you and your spouse again to grow closer. Um, I think it's just like when you have a baby, it's unspeakable joy in your marriage. Like, you have this level of joy when you get married, that you get to share life with this person, but now you have this even greater level of joy of this person that came from both of you and is now living in this earth. You have a person that gets to do life with you, and that person knew, like, one thing I heard one of my friends talk about today, was that we were created before the foundation of the earth, and we know everything that there is. Our spirits know, like everything God will reveal to us. We know about heaven, we know about um everything that we're going to know on this earth. Our spirits already know, but when we're on earth, it's just a revelation, is just something being revealed to our earthly bodies, our earthly minds, that our spirit already knew. So revelation is never new knowledge to our spirit. It's only just being recalled and revealed to our earthly mind. So our spirits already knew this. That's why it makes sense. That's why the truth is bearing to your earthly mind. But now it's it's being revealed to your, okay, I'm repeating myself. I think my blood sugar is so low, people, right now. Oh my gosh. I can feel it. I feel like I'm not eating enough calories. And this is a totally side rant, and I'm so sorry about this, but it's so true. I'm sorry, but I will get on track. Um, yeah. So sorry about the yawn. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a level of joy that you never experienced, I promise you, before you had kids. Um, there's an opportunity. This dynamic definitely affects your marriage, and it can be good and it can be bad. It depends on your perspective and um your choice in how you want to go about it. So when you communicate, how you communicate with your grandparents, because, like, your parents, the grandparents of the new kid, of your child. So there's going to be opportunity to where your parents are going to want to tell you how to do things, and that you can do things better. They can do things better this way. There's an opportunity for that. But remembering you're the parent for this baby, and you're learning, and you can take their advice and try it, but also remember, if you have a way you're doing it and that it's working, you can also share that with them, and just learning to communicate this with them is a whole nother like learning curve because they parented you, and they parented your siblings before, so they were doing the same journey that you are doing now, and they've been around the block. They do know something of what they're talking about. And for the most part, if you are 20, 25, or 30, they haven't done this in that many years. So yes, they might be a little out of touch. So you have to remember that they might know what something of what they're talking about, but they're also probably out of touch. So give them grace. Like, yes, they've done it more than you, but give them grace in that they haven't done it in a long time. So if they're telling you you're doing it wrong, that you need to do this, just communicate to them in a like peaceful way. To now, I feel like I'm talking in a different way. I'm not, I'm going off track, but like explaining to them like that this is how you're choosing to parent, even though that they parented this way, is something that can definitely affect your marriage if you let it, because now it's either your parents or your spouse's parents. And so you don't want your parents to get in the way of your marriage and now your parenting style. And so it's so important to be communicating with your spouse about these things, good or bad, about what your parents are talking about when it comes to parenting. So not letting your parents come in the way of your new parenting style and your marriage. Um, Another thing is it's very hard to get alone time. You're technically not alone ever unless your spouse is holding the baby. But someone has to be holding the baby or with the baby or monitoring the baby to some degree, whether they're in the bassinet or they're in their crib, but you have a monitor with you that is being with you. Or in in our case, he's only a few months and he's at this stage where he needs to be held all the time or he won't sleep. So we're having to hold him. Someone is always needing to hold him. And yes, we do need to learn how to lay him down. So I don't want to hear any mom shaming coming from any of you, but we're not he's in a stage where he needs to be held all the time. So that you can't ever really get alone. One person can at a time, but you have to take turns. It's not like you can just go both be off alone at your own at the same time. You have to take turns. So that affects your marriage in a huge way. Um, you have to learn to communicate and think of a system. Is one person taking care of the baby, for this many hours, or for like a cycle, like we've done this where he sleeps for about 3 to 5 hours at a time. Usually it's 2.5 to 3 on average. So sometimes we'll get lucky and he'll sleep for 5 hours during the day, you know. So one person will hold him and the other person can be free and for the amount of time, and then when he wakes up, we change him, feed him, and then he'll go back to sleep, and the other person will hold him and the other person is free to do what they want. So, but oftentimes you're not doing what you want because now the house needs to be cleaned, or you have to work from home, or um, you're working out, or you're making meals, or you're preparing meals for later, or you're making tea, or you're making food, or we're changing the oil. You're doing something that you normally would have had time to do before, when you were holding the kid, and then now once you're done with that changing the oil, now you could just relax. But in this case, you had to hold the baby and you couldn't change the oil, but now in your free time you get to change the oil. And now your free time of whatever you wanted to do, with that spending time with the Lord or just playing a game or reading a book, is now way less. So you have to choose very specifically what exactly you want to do that is for you, that entertains you, or feeds your soul, so, or feeds your spirit, you know what I mean? So that is a huge thing that can affect your marriage, because if it's not handled right, you might get upset or bitter or angry at the other person for you having to hold the baby longer, and that's never something you want to have to worry about, because you want to, you only want to be joyful to hold him because he's your son or your daughter and you love him or her. You don't want to be bitter or upset about having to hold them. You want to be like today I went to go work out, and then I talked to a friend for a little bit and walked around. And I was so excited to get to hold him again. And my husband had been holding him for an hour and a half, 2 hours, no, 2 hours, including my workout. And so I was excited. I showered and I was so excited to hold him again. And then he went off for a drive and was spending time with the Lord, and went to get coffee and drive and be with the Lord. And so it's like he was so excited to be off on his own. And so when he comes back, he's so excited to see him again. So it's just managing that, and it's so important to have a system like you could do where you hold the baby all day, or you hold the baby for half the day and then your spouse holds the baby for the other half, or there's various ways. But when the baby is in the stage of needing to be held, you have to figure that out and you have to communicate. Again, it's an opportunity for you to grow closer, but could cause stress and irritability very quickly. um Let's see. Your body and recovery. I think this is definitely geared specifically towards women. Um, this can affect your marriage when it comes to sex or sexuality, or just you romantically with your spouse. Um, I guess no, it's not just you as women, it's both. Like, you have to realize that your body was just a vessel, was not just, but your body was just, as in like recently, your body was recently a vessel for a human being to come out, and it takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on every aspect of your body, like your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips, your stomach, your waist, your back, your shoulders, your arms, everything, your neck, your mind, your heart, your spirit, everything is affected in your hormones, every aspect of your body. And your husband, the same, like, yes, it affects his body once the baby's born, but it does affect his body because you gain weight, and so he inevitably gains weight because you're eating food together. So it does affect his body, but in a different way. But you have to recognize that you need to give yourself grace, because you might not feel as sexy or beautiful as you did prior to having a baby, but you still are. Number one, you're still you. So you're still that incredible, beautiful masterpiece, beautiful self that you are. So that doesn't change in that way. But your body will change. And so just giving yourself grace, and I'm learning this, I'm not an expert, but I'm learning to give myself grace to lose the weight, and to, luckily I didn't have any stretch marks, um, except one, but the Lord took it away. It healed my stretch mark on my breast. You can watch that video where I talk about it on the Esther Effect. The Lord, it's called How to Lose Stretch Marks, but the Lord healed my me in stretch marks. But anyways, you know, your breasts are carrying milk, you know, so they're gonna take a toll on them. Your body was carrying a 5 to 10 pound baby. That's gonna stretch it out, you know. Granted, your skin is elasticy and stretchy, so it goes back. It does, and everything can get back into shape. So just giving yourself grace for that amazing, beautiful self to get back to what it was like prior to baby. So just giving yourself grace in that, and
um, your spouse, will do the same thing. And so that affects, it might affect you and sex and your spouse. And so just not letting that affect it is um so important. You are still you, and your love and your connection is so important as a husband and wife. And so taking that special time to do that, even though there's a whole nother dynamic of a person, and now there's three of you, and this person needs 100% attention all the time, you know, um, making that an effort for that, and and some people, this goes without saying for some people, but some people you need to be intentional, and because you don't feel like exactly how you were prior to having babies, you know? And so you will get back to how you were if you're intentional, you're eating right, working out. Just be diligent, be persistent, and you will get back to who you feel like is your normal self. Um, yeah, but that if you're not intentional, it can affect your sex life. Um, but I say, and I pray that you don't let it, because it's such a vital part of your marriage and your connection. It's all about connection. Are you connecting? Are you being united? You know, um, there is a level of your mind shifting from being completely devoted and making sure your husband is all good and complete devotion to your spouse. It's not like your complete devotion stops. You just have a greater capacity of devotion to give yourself now to not just your husband, but this baby. And so, in a way, it feels like your devotion and your complete focus shifts from your husband to this baby. So just being intentional about not letting it just, like, yes, it is all consuming for both of you, but your connection with your spouse is the most important thing, and it is the lifeline to the supporting and life and confidence of your baby. And the baby is supported by you supporting each other and loving each other and being connected to each other. And the baby reflects your love for each other. And so the baby watches, the child will watch your love for each other. And so sex is a huge reflection of that. And so I think it's so important to just be intentional. And as soon as your body is recovered, and you're the doctors don't really want you to get pregnant for 6 months to a year, just so that you can fully recover, like your uterus and all the hormones go back to normal, and um, for your body to get back into the shape it was prior, and all the muscles to recover, and just to give your body time to recoup and recover and recharge and rejuvenate is so, so important. And the doctors say it for a reason. And so just being mindful of that, and being abstinent when, you know, just being abstinent when you're fertile, and so that you're not getting pregnant. But I think it adds a level of excitement and joy, and um, I have friends, I know people that have been on birth control, and they would just, you'd have sex whenever, and it's almost like there's an opportunity for people to feel used, the women specifically, to just feel used, that you can have sex whenever, however, like that it's no longer a spark or an excitement or a joy, because it's just whatever, whenever, however. And it's not like an intentional spiritual connection that is a form of worship. It's now just a plaything or whatever. This is a very important aspect of your marriage, and it's so important that you take it seriously. And yeah, and your body and that recovery of your body is connected to that. So, in our, I know I'm pretty much done here, but Caleb and I have had the opportunity to be home, raising our baby for the first 3 months of his life, and I work from home, so I get to be with him all the time, which I'm so thankful to the Lord Jesus Christ. Oh my gosh, I can't over and over and over and over thank him enough. But Caleb, my husband, works very close to home, um, and so I'm very thankful for that. But he has been able to have a season of just being home with us for the for a very long time with him, and so, but there are people that work outside the home, and so that's a whole nother dynamic if you have a daycare. Working that out in your dynamic of your marriage can affect your marriage if you have a daycare, or if you are working, like one person, when is the person working and is someone at home, or are you having a grandparent take care of your baby? Like another level of communication is needed for parents that work outside the home when having kids, and that can affect your marriage in the sense of when you actually get to bond with your child, when you're not having somebody else watch your baby and you're actually home yourself to be with and bond with the baby, if that time is very little. And so that plays another part and is so can affect your marriage. So just being intentional, in that, time that you get to be home with your baby and when you work outside the home. And yeah. So anyways, I have such low blood sugar right now. I'm not eating enough calories. I know that. We just need to go grocery shopping. I'm just eating like vegetables all day and like no meat, and not on purpose, just because it's all frozen right now. So, and again, this is a lifestyle thing, but Caleb has been busy and, is in transition of the hotel. Like we have an off season and on season in our ministry, and so he was in an off season where he was able to be home and we weren't doing very much, little to things with the ministry, but now it's starting the on season. So he is going to be going back and working a ton, where I'm going to be home with him with Everest alone a lot. And that's definitely going to affect our marriage. And so there's just, a level of communication that needs to be, it could cause stress and irritability, but it's like, no, it's an opportunity to go closer and closer to the Lord, honestly. So, anyways, what I meant to say was it's hard to cook things with one arm, and I can lay him down, but after a while he gets upset. He wants to be picked up again, and I think it's part of teething and all that. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna stop here because I could go on for hours and hours. So, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Feel free to go to the Esther Effect on YouTube and subscribe and listen to lots of different things. Talk about so many different things on that channel, different things than I talk about here. Feel free to follow on Twitter at GoTeeGD, and feel free to leave a comment or review anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe and follow on at GoTee with Georgia D, wherever you're listening right now, so that you don't miss an episode. You can share this with friends. Feel free to do that. You can comment any topic you'd like me to talk about. And I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.